what happens for caregivers when they're not at home? They're in a restaurant, they need to use a public bathroom, they're at a party at a friend's house, and the unpredictable happens. A challenge arises. How does the public perceive them, and how can they help?
And that's just a little snippet from a web series called We the Caring, which is looking for funding because it's such an important issue that needs to be talked about. And joining me now are the producers of We the Caring, Christopher Wynn, welcome to the show, and Stephanie Erickson, welcome, both
Thanks,
of you.
Laura.
So Stephanie, let me start with you because you actually work in the field of caregiving and social work for many, many years. So tell me a bit about your background and what motivated you to want to do this.
Well, as you said, I'm a social worker, and I've been working with caregivers, all types of caregivers, palliative, caregivers of children with, foster kids, all the way to seniors, you name it, I've probably done it. And so I've seen over the years a lot of the struggles that caregivers have inside the home and outside of the home, which is what this series addresses.
And Chris, why did you decide particularly to deal with the challenges that are faced outside the home?
Well, actually, I was a caregiver as well for my father, who had early onset Alzheimer's disease, so I know some of those challenges. And it's not something that's out in public as much, right? Everybody thinks of caregiving in the home where you can have a controlled environment, but once you get out of the home, there's all these other things that go on. So that's why I was interested in doing it.
It's really interesting. Can you talk about some of those challenges that are faced?
Yeah, well, I mean, Chris had told me a story about his mom. If you don't mind, I'll tell it. She was driving, she was caring for his father who had Alzheimer's, and they needed to use a public restroom, and his dad at the time still needed some instructions, but she couldn't go into the restroom because it was a men's restroom. So how does she help her husband who's in a public restroom and needs assistance? So it's things like this, or restaurants, or activities like one of ours in our series. It talks about a pool when there's an autistic child who's going swimming. So it's these kind of situations outside the home.
And so what do you hope to gain from this web series? Because, I mean, what's important, like, how does the public react, first of all, in those situations? And how should they react, or how can we help?
Well, I think it's, first of all, it's about education, awareness, education. So for someone to see somebody acting up in a restaurant, like, how often do they say, oh, they probably have dementia? They rarely think of that. So first of all, it's about getting the education out there to the general public, and then yeah, just from there, growing to get them to know the different situations of whether the child has autism or someone has dementia like that.
Right, and when you're talking about what should people do, what we've learned in producing this series is that you may or may not do something as a public person. You may or may not help, but what caregivers say pretty consistently is it's okay to just say, I realize you're going through a difficult time right now. Is there anything I can do? Just that acknowledgement really helps a caregiver. Some may ask for help, some may not. But it's okay to acknowledge that someone's struggling and to ask if you can lend a hand.
Okay, well, now it's, you filmed just the pilot episode. Yeah. Tell us in about 30 seconds or so about the project and how people can help get this, fully on board.
Right, so you can go to caregiverstories.com and vote over the next week. You can go to our Facebook page, This Matters to Me.
Vote because there's sort of a contest going on.
Yeah,
right,
right.
Right. Okay. I think there's 10 different series that it's through TELUS. So it's not just voting. There's a board, but basically the more attention we can get right now, the better. So that's how you can
So you go to the Facebook page, you vote, you can share, and we have some hashtags associated with our project. Hashtag This Matters to Me, hashtag We the Caring.
And it's such an important series, and I know that no matter what contest or not, you'll both find a way to get this out to the public.
Yes, we will.
Okay, thank you both so much for
coming
this morning.